Right now on the Weather Channel, your local forecast.
Really?
Well, WeatherScope this go around is sponsored by,
frontal system and a trough from near Dallas with thunderstorms on up into Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And the southeast coast is okay, except watch out around Onslow Bay and Hanover County, Cape Fear, and Bolivia, North Carolina. Some large thunderstorms with even hail. Still a drippy day in most of the northeast with a stiff northeast winds. We even have some coastal flood watches from Fenwick Island, Delaware to Virginia Beach, Virginia, and parts of Chesapeake Bay. That northeast wind is taking its toll, bringing up the waters. Water temps cool, 50s, with winds 15 to 25 in the middle Atlantic coast, but it's been going on for days, and that's why the water level's coming up. Reducing
Weather information you can plan on, because we show it on the 8s of every hour. Local on the 8s on the Weather Channel. You can plan on, because we show it on the 8s of every hour. Local on the 8s on the Weather Channel. WeatherScope.
Well, the month of June is getting off to a cool start across most of the nation. Temperatures are having a hard time reaching up into the 70s and in a few spots maybe even into the 60s. Good evening and welcome to this edition of WeatherScope. I'm Jeff Morrow.
And I'm Dave Schwartz. I assume you're talking about my hometown, Philadelphia.
That's
59 degrees today.
You have so many hometowns, though.
I do. I tell you, I've been around. Yeah. I've even been in the tropics, too. I used to live in Guatemala. There's a tropical storm that is headed for Guatemala and the Mexican state of Chiapas, right?
Very good.
You'll fill us in on that. Plus, we've had some heavy rain from the Mid-Atlantic to the Ohio Valley. That's now over, but in Toledo, Ohio...
Sharon Resultan's hometown.
Sharon Resultan's hometown. If you don't get the water from the sky, you get it from below. Look at that. That is Lake Erie water. In Toledo, Ohio, we've had ourselves a seiche. There's just no way around it. Lake Erie water is now overflowing roads in Toledo. The rain is over, but now with high pressure here, low pressure there, the wind is northeast. And the northeast wind across Lake Erie, at least a persistent one, and it has been persistent the last couple of days, is one which will pile water up right here. Toledo, right there where the Maumee River enters the lake. There's Detroit. But with a persistent northeast wind, this water just piles up here. And as Jeff was telling me, lake levels are probably down up here in Buffalo and Erie, but they're up here. That's why we've had the overflow. Once the winds die down and or change direction, this water will slosh back. It's a phenomenon that I just learned tonight is known as a seiche. S-E-I-C-H-E. Well, we've had some cool weather here, cooler than in Toledo because it rained all day in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. A record low maximum temperature today. Philadelphia also, 59, record low maximum temperature. Harrisburg, the state capital, record low maximum temperature. Where do you go to get warm? You head to Florida or to Canada. 70 degrees is our warm spot on our northeast map in Montreal. How do you like that? You are to the north of all these clouds. Meanwhile, further south, we found the showers in the Carolinas earlier today. A cold front is settling southward now through Greenville, Spartanburg. 62 raw degrees right now in Greenville. And here in South Florida, the heavy rain in North Dade County, over 2 inches of rain. And up here at Boca, we've had some heavy rain too. The hailstorm is over here in Charleston, and these showers will end. I'll tell you, by and large, this is a very quiet night for severe weather. These are the lightning hits. Just over the last several hours, few and far between. But the night is young. Jeff?
Tropical storm Andres could bring rain to some areas of the U.S. eventually. We'll take a look at that storm in a few moments. But first, let's take a look at deteriorating weather conditions in many areas of the Pacific Northwest. Seattle, kind of a rainy day. None of this rain was all that terribly heavy. I was just checking at the SeaTac airport. 0.19 of an inch was all you could muster there. But maybe in some of those upslope areas, the orographically favored areas. And what I mean by that is when you bank the moisture up against the mountains, it aids in the condensation of the moisture in the air, and you can get heavier rainfall totals. And I'm sure that there were a few spots that picked up maybe 1/3 to 1/2 inch, maybe even an inch in a few spots. Most of the rain, even though this looks very impressive rainfall-wise in Northern California, is on the light side. Now, I have to correct myself. I thought that the normal monthly rainfall in San Francisco, for June anyway, was about 200s, but it turns out to be about 1,500s, and that's just about what you've gotten so far this month. You've gotten about 700s in the last 24 hours from this system alone, which again is pretty unusual to get that kind of a band of rain that far south, and it's all associated with a very strong front. We're going to be adding a low up here in Idaho, by the way. We forgot to put one on there, but needless to say, a pretty good flow coming in off the Pacific Ocean, coming almost up from the due south here. You can see the rain moving on up into Seattle. That's a little unusual too. Usually the rain comes in from the west, so orographically favored areas, maybe not so much in this case because The mountains don't run east-west, they run north-south. So this is kind of parallel to the mountain ranges. But it is banking that moisture up against the Sierra Nevada here a little bit, up toward Mount Shasta, so a little bit of an enhancement in rain there. Had some cold air funnel clouds. Didn't reach the ground, obviously, by definition, on up into parts of Nebraska tonight. And really no thunder and lightning to talk about. And really, there's not usually very much thunder and lightning with tropical systems either. But Andres has plenty of rain with it. Winds at 40 miles per hour, moving northeast at 10. Main problem here along the Mexican coast, where there are tropical storm warnings from Punta Galera all the way to the Mexican-Guatemalan border, is rain, folks. That's what we're most concerned about here. The system appears to be weakening just a bit, but still good circulation. Flare up near the center. This is head up into the Gulf of Tehuantepec. Watch for landfall here in the next 12 to 18 hours, most likely. Dave?
Well, Jeff, it's been a cool winter and now spring in the east, and well, it's June and we're still in this highly amplified pattern. Big trough, cool air here. The heat is out here in the plains. High pressure from Canada and the flow around it, sending some chilly air down into Atlanta and Greenville-Spartanburg. Plus low pressure along a front will intensify tomorrow, and there are going to be some cool rains for a couple of days here in the southeast. High temperature in Washington, D.C. today was 56. 66 is your forecast, and that doesn't even approach average, which would be in the low 80s. Wow, are we saving on air conditioning? But I mean, enough is enough already. 69 in Raleigh, your average in the low 80s. Atlanta, low 70s. That's the forecast for Friday. But that's jumping ahead. Jeff, what's it look like for Wednesday?
Dave, you might be saving on those air conditioning bills in the east, which is good, but you may have to turn on the furnace in some cases. I mean, some highs don't get out of the 40s, and they're going to be dropping down into the 30s, maybe in some cases tonight. That's furnace weather, folks, up here in northern Pennsylvania and parts of upstate New York. Now, a bit of a backdoor cold front. In other words, it's sliding down along the east coast. That is reinforcing this cool air along the east coast. A bit of a dry day, except for a few showers in New England, but a little bit rainy on the Outer Banks. Not great vacation weather there. A few thunderstorms in Florida, but at least it'll still be warm here. Most of the rain, except in the Appalachians and on up along the Chesapeake, will be on the light side. There's the rain in the middle of the country. That should be dying down a bit overnight. And here's the rain in California and the Pacific Northwest. As I mentioned, 30s up around Bradford, Pennsylvania. That's always a chilly spot, but hey, in June. And high temperatures, 50s in northern New England, 60s and some 70s as we head on down along the Mid-Atlantic coast. Dave, I feel sorry for the folks that scheduled a vacation along the Mid-Atlantic coast this week.
You got that right. Cool and wet.
Yeah.
46 degrees right now in Johnstown.
Ouch.
Well, that's a look at the weather around the nation. Coming up, find out where the trouble spots will be for your morning commute.
That's coming up on